Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to World of Warships, live here from Prague. I'm MrConway, community manager, and with me is the glorious Crysantos, seal clubber extraordinaire.
And part-time senior community manager, absolutely. Yeah, welcome everybody to our special stream today. We're very happy that we managed to get this into 2018, because today is not a gameplay stream. No, today's stream has a theme, and that is World of Warships and history.
Yes, we have invited a very special guest from our historical, archival, and research team. I hope that was correct. Sergey Gornostaev.
I'm sure Sergey is going to correct you.
I think we're going to get corrected shortly. But he is, he's like the real deal, an actual historian and senior museums and militaria relations specialist. Now, there's a mouthful of a title. We need to find a catchy acronym for him.
Well, it would be Smummersen. So I think we'll have to work on that, yes.
We're going to have to figure something out, yes. We need to figure out a better way to pick these job titles.
Yes.
Anyway, so we actually posted a thread on Reddit, I think 2 weeks ago, and on the European forums, asking you to come up with a couple of questions for Sergey. He collected them. He went and he dug deep. You know, he did what historians do, and he looked in books and researched, and he has some answers for you. We're going to go through these pre-prepared questions and have a bit of a talk about Sergey's answers. But of course, we encourage and welcome additional questions throughout the stream. Please, if you have a question, please, if you're on Twitch, type @World of Warships before your question so it gets highlighted for us. You can do the same thing, I believe, on YouTube, on Facebook. Just shout loudly, and I hope we'll get it. But we're not going to get to many questions until we've gone through the list of those we already have collected, unless it is relevant to what we've just talking about. Okay. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of people talking. Maybe we'll look at some ships, but probably not actually going to blow anything up today. So there's that.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes. Anyway, I think we've gone and rambled on long enough. I think it's time to say hello to Sergey. So let's switch over and connect live to St. Petersburg. Hello, Sergey. You're live.
Hello, folks.
So, some people might already know you because this is not the first time you are on stream here with us. You actually were here for the anniversary stream where we had a short segment. But why don't you introduce yourself to the guys who don't know you yet?
Sure. So, hello, Mr. Conway, hello, Crysantos, and each and everyone playing World of Warships. So I'm Sergey Gornostaev, Senior Museums and Military Relations Specialist, and I represent here today the Historical and Archival Research Team. So we're basically a very small department. We have 3 historians, the historical consultants, me, the guy dealing with museums and archives, and for sure our naval, the officer who served in the Navy, the Russian Navy, and you can recognize him from naval legends mostly. So what I'm basically doing, I help several teams among World of Warships development to find useful materials and find build good relations with the various institutions. Like, for example, if we need blueprints to build some ships for upcoming tech trees, it is me who started the research where to find them, the blueprints, historical photos, or even find out that there are some existing ships, like museums, and we could visit them and take necessary photos from the sites. I manage with those projects, also help video teams to visiting the same museums for naval legends, also naval forts, and various other things.
That sounds like, honestly, and I always think the history team, you guys have the coolest job. Right, you're the ones who actually go and play with the ships, and I know how it is when you go to the museum and working for wargaming. You get the VIP treatment, you get to play with the toys, you get to touch the things other people can't touch. I know. We did an event in Chatham with HMS Cavalier, and they let me fire the gun. That was cool.
I'm very jealous about this.
this is what I have to do to build relations for the first time. It's like the first man on the moon. There are always some tricks and problems to solve. So yeah, and then come you and fire a gun.
Yes, that is, that's. But
That's the way it has to be.
Yes, someone's got to do it, right? So I want to ask one or two questions first, the sort of general questions before we go into details. Someone's saying I'm a bit quiet. We're going to make ourselves a little bit louder. Technology is ready. So Sergey, what is your favorite ship? I know it's a tough one. Not in game. I mean, what is your favorite ship historically, and then also what is your favorite ship in game? Both interest me.
Well, historically, as I always mention, we have like our hometown ship as Aurora. I mean, our bond to it is just something you should consider. In the game, I found of German battleships. Can't do anything with myself. So, for example, like Kaiser, I played it a lot. As for real life history, it might be Belfast or Haida. Love that ships. Love Canadians. It's like one of the toughest fighters in World War II. They were stubborn. They were tough. Cool story behind that.
Yes. Did they apologize when they sunk people?
Let me dig it for that.
It's the Canadian meme. Okay, cool. Yes, we've actually, when we went to St. Petersburg, we went and visited Aurora. Very nice ship. Very, very cool. Very well preserved. Our only quibble was no English anywhere. Like,
Yes.
It's like the museum part of the ship was not very useful because we didn't understand a word of what was said, but it was cool.
Yeah, I can only recommend. So if you guys ever go to St. Petersburg, go check out the Aurora. It's really well preserved. It's easy to get onto it. The queues weren't that long, even on a very sunny Sunday for us. And it's very interesting to see. And yeah, the descriptions are not in English, but most of the things you can figure out what they're doing. And yeah, you have a nice view even of St. Petersburg.
Yes,
because it's on the river. So,
but I also have to say to this, like, St. Petersburg is generally a city I would recommend as a visit to anyone who likes just cities. It's a nice one.
To add to that, I would also mention that we have icebreaker Krasin, which participated in Arctic convoys, and this is cool because there is some comparison. We have the battleship, the warship, and the civilian vessel, which did some job during World War II. And also we have, if you don't know that, we have the Kirov gun turrets, which are mounted on the Vasilievsky Island. So the ship itself was scrapped, but they decided to put this gun mounts as like the postament.
Nice. I think next time we go to St. Petersburg, we're gonna have to go visit the town with you.
So. Yes. We'll have to find an excuse for you to take us around and show us all of the cool things in St. Petersburg. Yeah. So we collected, as Mr. Conway already mentioned, we collected a few questions in advance because we wanted to be able to answer them to a certain degree in detail. So we did this. In the future, if you missed out on that and you would like to send us your question next time in advance, always keep an eye out on our forums or the Reddit, for example. We always try to get as much input from your side as we can. And while we're going to answer these questions, if you have a question that is completely unrelated to this, please put it to the end of the stream so we can ask these questions later on. But if you have something that is related to the question or the answer that is currently running, feel free to post it and we'll try to ask it.
Cool.
And Mr. Isolate, thank you very much for that host and raid. I hope you had fun because Mr. Isolate is one of our English-speaking contributors, and he is currently in Prague visiting us. And he thought the best thing to do is actually stay at Crysantos' place and stream from his place.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Stream from somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna go to the first question.
Yes.
First question is quite an open-ended one, quite a long one. It is from Kamaku, and he would like to know how we decide names for the ships in game.
Well, I would like to start with that we only need to decide the name for ships which are paper ships, obviously. And for this category, we have two options. Either such ships, paper ships, were launched but not commissioned, or they were even not launched and commissioned and not built, obviously. So for the first category, we simply follow the naming suggestions, which were brought up by the shipbuilders and the Navy. This is the easy category. And the second one is actually the harder one, but there are some rules behind that. And we just follow these rules. In some countries, they were even naming conventions, like in Japan, in United States Navy. So we have to follow those rules. And for example, I will just name a few rules from the German Navy. So let's start with the battleships. The battleships of Hochseeflotte. What did they have? They were named after the German lands, which is obviously the Nassau or Bayern, for example. They also named using the titles of the adopted by the ruling dynasty, like already mentioned Kaiser or König. These were used. They actually used as well the names of notorious monarchs of the, or just family of the monarchs, like Friedrich der Große or Prince Regent Luitpold. Sorry for my bad German pronunciation. For these simplest.
It's great. It's great pronunciation. Don't worry about it.
So yeah, the easiest were actually for the light cruisers. They were simply named after the German cities, like Emden. I had actually to Google myself where the city is in Lower Saxony. If you wonder, the Königsberg, the Nuremberg. These were just the names which was used for name the light cruisers. As for the paper ships, we also have some rules we adopted. We don't use the names of battleships built in the first half of 20th century, which given names for the whole classes of warships. Also, we try to avoid using names of and giving these names to paper ships of the warships which were famous for something, like for extraordinary deeds in battle. And we don't use the names of high-ranking commanders and politicians of Third Reich, because it's just simply hurt feelings of a lot of players. These are actually rules we follow and we adopted to find out which name would be the best for the paper ships.
Cool. We actually got a question right away that is relevant to this one. Do you want to go for, or do you?
I'll read it out. So we had one question about the naming of one particular ship, and maybe you can answer it. And that is about the name Republik for the Republic that we have in game. So the question is, why Republik's name? Because it's. I'm just going to rephrase it a bit, because that's not a usual name for a French battleship that had it, and the actual name would be something like Ville de Paris or Verdun or Ile-de-France. Can you maybe help with that?
Well, I can be wrong, but I believe we just decided to give something like very important. For the French people, so it's the form of ruling in that country. So that was the answer.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hope it answered it for the player.
I just want to give one quick sort of notice to people who are asking questions. We are not going to be talking about any gameplay or balancing decisions or all these kind of things today. We're really going to talk about the history and the actual ships. So this is Sergey doesn't is not a game designer, so he won't be able to answer the questions. So keep those for another Q&A that I'm sure we're going to do with our game balance and design.
Exactly. Also, just one thing to keep in mind: we're going to talk about the history of ships and some nations, but we cannot, for example, disclose when a certain nation is coming, because I see a question, for example, about when is the Swedish Navy going to come to the game? So these kind of questions, not the perfect place to ask for about this today. And you know that everything that is not released yet, we cannot talk about it, but we will always tell you as soon as we can. So just please keep this in mind. And yes. Just think about it, guys. And also, if you have unrelated questions, try to wait with them until the end of the stream, because right now we're just going to look for questions that are related to the topic. Cool. Do you want to go for the next question?
Yes. Next question is from Connor L. or Connery. I don't know. One or the other.
Let's go for Connery. It sounds cool.
Connery, yes. The question is, were there any preconceptions or thoughts the team had about a particular ship's design philosophy or Navy's doctrine that were proved wrong after, being able to access the archives and actually conducting the research?
Sure. So about misconceptions, they could actually occur when there is not much knowledge about the particular country's shipbuilding program, or the history of shipbuilding, the history of the Navy. It is how it happened. And the example for it would be Imperial Japanese Navy. It's like we can count on fingers of one hand the good authors who published and monographs about the Imperial Japanese Navy ships. In English for sure, and this country's history, the naval history, and their shipbuilding program is the just very tough topic. So, and yet there are a lot of opportunities because there are a lot of completely untouched topics. For us itself, the history of Soviet shipbuilding is very interesting topic. So I would say that we really digged a lot in Russian archives, and we find out some interesting stuff for the shipbuilding era between 1930s and 1950s. So you'd probably, a lot of ship lovers, the history enthusiasts in other countries rather than Russia would. If we are talking about Russian cruisers, would name, for example, Kirov, or Project 26, or Project 87, 88, 68 bis, Mikhail Kutuzov. But that's not what actually were proposed at the Papership project. We found a lot of them, like the whole family of the light cruisers, which were designed for really different purposes, and it really shows the history of Soviet shipbuilding of that era in a completely different angle, and this is cool. So we actually adopted some of these designs, and you can play them in World of Warships. For example, be prepared for Russian language, Budeny. So the Project 94, as it is known in secret documents, or the Shores Project 28. This project we found in archives and added in the game already.
Okay. I have a question about this actually. So I know from things I've heard from around inside of wargaming that, and the forums and Reddit, that a lot of the even like World War II, end of World War II, sort of early 50s documents and projects are still classified as secrets. How challenging was it to actually get at all of this documentation?
Well, it's just the situation with the two biggest Navy archive. They are kind of a split. One is actually the civilian, and the other one is military. So the military Navy history is stored in this archive starting from 1941 till like nowadays. So yes, there are a lot of materials which are classified or had to get through because they just stored in a very small building, and now it is to be taken to Moscow. in the bigger archive, as I recall, it should be named the archive of the Great Patriotic War. So we just came up with the decision that we will research this information needed for us in various other archives which were related to the history, like economical archive and others. So we just simply had to invest more time to to gather this information from piece to piece, from one paper to another, and just combine it and have this and get this information for designers to build those ships. It's all.
Okay, so just more work, but you can still get the information.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good. Do we have any questions related to?
Yes. From T_Nappy, and he's asking a bit of a more broad question about how you actually get to those blueprints, especially from other nations. So, how were you able to gain access to the schematics, for example, for the U.S. Navy? Did you get the access freely, or was there like a collaboration between wargaming and the military? Like, how can a regular player imagine how this works?
Well, I would say 98% of these archives are completely open to the broader audience. So you just need to follow the rules and regulations, how you get the researcher card, as it is named, for example, in United States National Archives. So where almost all the data for US Navy is stored. You just go there and research and get the cool stuff for designers.
Cool.
It's
that
relatively simple, yeah.
sounds easy, yes. Cool.
Yeah. Some archives actually even if you're interested in particular type of ship or the piece of history, they even allow the service of the private researchers who can help you if, for example, you are in the other country. So I'm sitting here as a private researcher and want to find something in Bundesarchiv. As I recall, there are some researchers they trust to the archive itself, and you can hire him and let him look for you for some references. But we have our own team, so we just launched this research trip and work there. Cool. So one of the guys who actually were digging in a Bundeswehr archive is now in Prague. This is Martin Stach. So hi, Martin.
Yes, he's. I think he already went home. But yeah, he loves to be in touch with the German museums. We have a related question to this from Change HR Battery, and it's: do you have much access to smaller nation archives, or does it work the same way?
It depends. I would say I wouldn't talk about this more or less, just because if I'll mention that we worked or not worked in this archive, we'll make prepositions that we are not making or planning to adopt this country's navy soon. But most of them are really open to researchers. So yeah, you just it's the problem of the language for sure. And I know that there is this question, and we'll cover it a little bit later. So just keep an eye for that one.
Cool. Okay, so next pre-submitted question is from Dörte EU, and his question is: what are the weirdest, most impractical, or in hindsight, flat-out laughable naval designs you've ever found during a research? And what are the chances to ever encounter them in World of Warships in some form or another?
So weirdest designs, yes. Actually, in Warships history, they are not so numerous as for tank designs, but there were some strange projects like British and French in 1930s designed submarines with the guns of heavy cruiser scale. So they were really funny projects. But I would say, and like made a link on a previous question about misconceptions. The weirdest and bloodiest beast we found was in a Russian Soviet archive, and it was Project X, as it was called. It was proposed in 1935. I believe that the ship designers were encouraged by the pocket battleship conception, so they made the design of the heavy cruiser with the guns as big and as powerful as 240 millimeters, 60 caliber, which were to be mounted in 4 triple turrets. So this heavy cruiser should have really tough armor, 2 triple tubes, and this is the most interesting part. It has to carry 9 aircraft and 2 midget submarines. I don't believe that shipbuilders, the Soviet shipbuilders, really understood why they need this beast, which is why actually the Soviet Navy rejected this project. It was actually reviewed by the Navy, and they found it too costly, and they found it they don't have that operational goals for that beast in that time. But it is cool. You just imagine that. I know that we have some views of this ship and the midget sub that you can share with the audience.
We're showing them right now.
Yeah, we're
cool,
looking
cool,
at
yeah.
we're looking at the midget sub right now.
So yeah, just imagine this Project X cruiser. If it will launch all its aircraft and midgets, I believe it would easily like conquer the small African country on its own. It's like the some crazy stuff we've seen in the Red Alert series, which is why I love it. Totally love it.
So Tier 9 Premium Free XP Soviet Heavy Cruiser confirmed.
And actually, the ship itself wasn't built, but they even tested this midget subs called Flea on the Black Sea. So yeah, it was. They were serious about that one.
Didn't I see some midget subs in the Naval Museum in St. Petersburg? Have you got one? Is it one? Do they have one of them there, or are the other ones that they?
Oh
have
yeah, it's one of the older midget subs. Like even not the midget subs. It's actually the one of the first submarines.
Yes, that was. I mean, you guys can just Google it.
The
But
bicycle powered one.
yeah, that was when I saw this, and we had a guide talking about the submarine, and then telling us that, well, all of the air that you get in the submarine is the air you take with you, and it's really small. It's impressive to check it out. So if you ever go to St. Petersburg, go make sure to check out the Naval Museum, because there's a lot of interesting things. On top of that, if you like our signal flags, a lot of the signal flags are actually hanging there in the museum from the ceiling. So that was also very nice. Had a nice touch.
Yeah. And let's head over to our next question. The next one would be from Nico JT, who has an interesting Reddit tag of "Where's my Type 22 frigate?" I think that's something we're not going to talk about in any case. His question is, why do some French warships have park benches on the deck? That's, I think, is a valid question, because they do indeed have park benches on the deck.
This one is the simplest one. And I wouldn't be a historian if I won't bring with me a book, actually. So this is the book about the cruisers of 8,000 tons. We actually found a lot of references for park benches in the archival photos from the French the Ministry of Defense in Imperial War Museum. We buy lots of photos there for research purposes, and for sure in books. I mean, like, there are a lot of references about these benches. They just sailors hanging there, and it's cool. I would dare to say it's like the tactical benches. So we just see no reason why don't we add this cool stuff like the how it's say in English, the Easter egg, yeah, like the Easter eggs. And if you'll just study our models carefully, you'll find, I'm sure, a lot of other Easter eggs. So just go on and check some models in our clients.
Absolutely. And we have a kind of related question to this from definitely not the Desert Fox. Have you ever accessed original documents for information, or do you only use books and reproductions?
Well, for sure, we access the original plans, and we work with them, order copies from them. It depends from archive to archive. If we really work with photos, for example, in the French Ministry of Defense, they actually let us take photos from photos because it was easier, and we actually access these archives. In others, they just simply digitalized all the collection they had and not allow visitors or researchers to touch them. It's easier just to click on their website, choose the appropriate image, and either use it if you are a private researcher or buy it as you are a publisher, for example, for the book or game designer.
Yeah, I know I've seen quite a lot of the, especially German sort of source material directly from the archives that were original blueprints of the actual ships, and they're beautiful. And it's just such a shame that we can't share them because they're copyrighted by the German National Archives. So we don't own the rights to them, so we can't just share them. But if you were lucky enough to be one of the people who visited us Gamescom this year, for instance, then we actually had a poster produced that featured a compilation of the original blueprints of the Scharnhorst that we licensed from the German National Archives. So, I really hope that this is something we can show more of in the future, because I think there's an interest there, but it's not as easy, unfortunately. We've got it. We can show it. I think we can look. We'll look. This is actually a good example because we have one lying around. Let me just. Where's the big camera? Let me. Sergey, you're going to be gone for a while. We'll be back in 20 seconds. Yes. So it's really
amazing.
cool. Our team sort of took two different blueprints and then combined them together to make this poster. If you ever come visit us in Prague, we've got 1 or 2 left. Don't tell anyone. Okay, we're back again here. I think we go on to the next question, right? Did you have anything else about this?
Did we already answer the part about what we do if most of the original information about ship designs were destroyed during the war? How we get those information, then how we extrapolate? Let me give me a second because I just.
You saw the question? Yeah, I know that.
So yeah, it was a question from Striker, and he's just interested like how we do research on ships. You would like to introduce, and chat, don't scroll. Who had almost all of their historical documents and blueprints destroyed, like for example many Japanese ship designs.
We actually do some research behind that. So even if we have just a few blueprints left, like for the Japanese ships, it's a good example. We can always count on the National Shipbuilding School, because it has its own rules and regulations, and it always show you in what direction they were designed. And this helps to fill in the blank spaces.
Okay, I think we have a little bit more of an in-depth question about that coming up later as well. Next question is from Star Destroyer 001, who would like to know what the documentation basis for Hakuryu is. He says he's aware that it's a modified or enlarged plan of the Taiho class, but do we have more details about her and how we came up with her? I'll bring up a grey preview of a Hakuryu in the background because I'm a noob and I don't have carriers.
Yes, we just simply plan to build the carrier with a bigger hangar capacity than Taiko had. So it was the in fact, the enlarged Taiho aircraft carrier. Plan was to expand the hangar capacity so it could carry the 100 aircraft. And yes, we did use the existing historical project, the paper ship one, which was G15. It was named, or in like some recent references, is named as Taihokai, and it is the information about the plant armament and tonnage could be easily found in the net. Just use the index of this paper ship project G15.
Yeah, we've got some images you sent through as well of Taihokai and a comparison of Taiho and Hakuryu. So it's not as though we make these things up out of thin air, guys.
Yes, and I don't think we have really strongly related questions to this.
Oh, okay. Well, we can move on. The next one is a really it's an interesting one. It's from Ankist, who's asking about the rangefinders on the secondary turrets of Zao. He thinks they're oddly arranged because half of them have their positions near the superstructure, half of them on the outside of the ship near the water. Since Zao is one of the paper ship designs, he's asking why we went in that direction. I'll bring it up in the background so that people who don't have a Zao or don't know, they can look.
So yeah, Mr. Conway, will you please accompany me, showing actually those rangefinders? We have two pairs, one near the ship's bow, which is oddly placed, as the question was, and the answer is quite simple. We just follow the necessity, and we just research how the ship could fight better. So if you just look on the superstructure where the rangefinders are placed, they are placed so they could see the targets coming from the ship's bow in the straight angle, like 12 hours, and they could shoot at them. So we actually used these rangefinders to help the dual-purpose artillery, Type 98. And this artillery was actually mounted as the main guns for the Akatsuki-class destroyers. So these guns are real historical ones, which is our goal. So we are not like inventing something out of scratches. We use what the Navy really had. And those rangefinders placed closer to the fantail, they just simply see. There is no need to place them anywhere else. They just see the incoming targets from the other direction. So it's just the logic, how they could fight better against the enemy.
Okay, I haven't seen any follow-up to this one.
No, me neither.
No. Yeah, it's. I think we're going to get a little bit more into paper ship design a little later, but I think it's really interesting with how much attention to detail these ships are created, because it's not just as though we just don't just go and just make up a ship. There's like basis in what we do, even if it hasn't existed historically. Okay, next question is from Not So Subtle 1247. He's asking, what is your favorite CV moment from the Pacific Theater? What part of CV history do you find the most interesting? And please discuss something about CV architecture, design, operations, tactics, or history you are passionate about. So there's material for a book or two?
Oh, well, let's see. So the CV history and Pacific Theater. There were a lot of really cruel and important battles for both sides, for Imperial Japanese Navy, for United States Navy. But as a historian, I prefer like very small, not so very well known moments of facts, which fascinates me. So I just give an example of one of such facts. have you ever heard, MrConway or Crysantos, about the USS Robin aircraft carrier?
No.
So it was actually not even the United States aircraft carrier. It was gallantly offered from the Royal Navy in December 1942 to United States Navy because they had really run out of aircraft carriers. They had only Saratoga in operation, so they were offered this aircraft carrier for like half a year, almost, and I believe that was very, I would say, surprising moment for Imperial Japanese Navy, because aircraft carriers, they are not the things that you can just easily take from your magic hat and put into the battle. Like Imperial Japanese Navy for sure known how much aircraft carriers United States Navy had, so that was a surprise for them, I would say. And when you deceive your opponent, it's very important. When you deceive your opponent, you make him do some mistakes, and you win the war. So that's how it works, and that which is why I love this fact. Yeah.
Yes, cool. Just a reminder, guys, in chat, if you have questions related to gameplay or, let's say, World of Warships as a game in general, we won't really answer them today. Today is focused on the history behind it. So if you have questions like that, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, if you have questions like, oh, what about this mechanic? Or did you ever think about adding this mechanic? Not a question for today. We can try to answer them in the future, but today we just want to focus on what Sergey is working on, because he took a lot of time to prepare for this and help you with the more historical part and focused on research. Cool. Do you want to jump to the next question, Mr. Conway?
Yes. I was just going to say, like, I recently actually read a book about the U.S. Pacific campaign, specifically the air battle in the Pacific Ocean. But after Jingles recommended it to me, Mr. James D. Hornfisher. I don't know if you've read them, but if anybody's interested in like CV battles and what went along with them, I can heartily recommend it. I think it was called The Fleet at Flood Tide. Great book.
We have a more casual question in here, but I think it's actually quite interesting. What was your favorite project to work on? That you can talk about.
Well, there were several projects, the interesting experience actually working in Japan archives without any knowledge of Japanese language. I would talk about that a little bit later. What else, actually? I always love working with veterans because it is the first-hand knowledge you can get only from them. So this is always important to me. A part of that, I probably mentioned it in the last stream, the anniversary one. We actually fired a gun salvo from Belfast, and it was really cool on 9th of May. That was something to remember.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bigger gun than on Cavalier, that's for sure. So I just noticed a question from Heather Marcoux. That was more about the previous Hakurio question, but I'll ask it anyway. And she's wondering what features of the ship of the Hakurio we put in game caused us to choose her rather than the Shinano.
Say it again, I misheard you, sorry.
Why Hakurio and not Shinano?
Well, this is once again about the gameplay and like the game balance. So you'd better to ask game designer team rather than me, because the decisions made they are made with our the historical consultants from our team participation, but mostly it is the job of the game designers.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure who would have made the decision on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, guys, that's also the answer for quite a few questions that you asked today. Because, Sergey, maybe you can explain a bit how you and game designers work together so that people have a better understanding of what your role is in that process and what game designers then do with that information that you provide.
We will for sure talk about that a little bit later, but we have like the historical archival research team. We have the art QA and our so-called shipbuilding bureau. So a few guys who really have the professional shipbuilding experience, and they design these ships, design the models for that, which are built later in our department. We as well have game designers who balance the ship between each other. So they could actually pick up the ships before the models would be built. And it is like the joint decision in which my colleagues, historical consultants, are involved. And what I'm actually doing, I'm the first person who would think in which direction we would have to dig in and find out if there is any useful materials for us, and then negotiate with the guys in the archive, and sometimes even participate as the member of the research team, as was in United States archives, in Japan archives, as the researcher.
So you're the archive for the archive. Perfect. Cool. Thank you very much for answering that.
Cool. Next question is from one of our regulars, Day of Moan, and he's asking, how are previously existing ship designs, non-existing ship designs are made for the game? So this goes more to the paper ships. As examples, he gives République and Henri.
Oh, yeah, sure. The most important rule for us, like the first rule of Fight Club, is that we have to follow the real pipeline. I mean, the pipeline which is used to build the real warship. It is important because on that stage we do not game assumptions. We don't simplify the parameters, and this is have to be considered by our players. We just we use the real knowledge which our shipbuilding bureau have in that question. So we use all these math and calculations and physics to build up the paper ships. Also, we involve analysis of the ships, of the real ships or the paper ship projects, which were actually to be built for the hostile navies. For that navy, which ship we actually try to build. This has to be important because it was always the race between a few navies. This is important to mention. So if we are to build like the paper ship, the République or Henri, we search for the available artillery systems or paper ship projects, or modernize. Like if we have no artillery system which could suit this warship, we just simply modernize the existing ones. What we did with the Henri, Tier 10 French cruiser. We actually modified the existing 240 millimeter 50 caliber gun, model 1902, and modernized in 1906. So we understood that we have to enlarge it a little bit, so 5 calibers more, as it was in the Schneider gun mounted on the French gun mounted on the railway platform and sold then to Japan. So we just we modify the real gun, but the shell for it, we have to calculate and ballistic data by ourselves. And in comparison to the example I've done for the Henry Republic, we found in French Defense Ministry archives the real gun project for the gun of 431 millimeter, and just calculated the shell and ballistic decision for that one, and that's what we did. Actually, the more information about that you could find easily in the interview of my colleague from the mentioned shipbuilding bureau, Anton Kurchatkin. It was published in Russian language and then translated for the audience. I believe MrConway Crysantos will share the link on it. It could be found on Reddit.
Yes, we're sharing it right now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Go bookmark that for later use.
Exactly.
It's interesting.
Good read. Yes, guys, and just a reminder: if I know you have a lot of questions because we're talking about the history of ships, and you would like to know, what about ship XYZ, or are there more ships coming from nation A, B, C? We cannot really answer this. As soon as we have information about new upcoming ships, we will talk about this. You can be sure that especially guys like us or Sergey, we would love to see all of the ships in game, but they take a lot of time because they need to be, first of all, researched, designed, modeled, balanced, and then put into the game. And that is a process that takes months for each of these ships. So be sure we're looking into a lot of ships that we can add to the game, but we cannot talk about them yet, about the ships that are bound to come.
Yes, and I'm marking down lots of questions for later use.
Yes,
but if you have a question that's related to what we're actually talking about right now, like the specific ship or topic, we'll interject it. Otherwise, we'll come to the other questions afterwards and see
exactly
how much knowledge we can pry out of Sergey.
Yes. So I also have to highlight one of the comments that I saw on YouTube from Jack, who said. And that's more for you, Sergey, and the team in St. Petersburg, because he says the attention to detail and historical accuracy is one of the things that he loves so much about the game. He's very glad that you take the time to do this. So this is just something, I guess, that a lot of people in chat also feel, that the time and effort put into making these ships as historically accurate as we can in a game that is about fun, it's really appreciated. So thank you.
And this is fun for us.
Perfect. Everybody has fun.
So the next question is from Fufafi, good name, and he's asking if you could get one historical captain into the game, and it isn't in the game yet, who would you choose and why? Who and why?
I don't have the quick answer for you, but if I were to choose from any navies, I would say that we could highlight a little bit Canadians, as I probably mentioned them earlier. So why don't it be, for example, the first captain of Haida, Harry de Wolf. He was notorious for making Haida the most well-known ship of the Canadian Navy during her first years of service, and dealing the significant damage to Kriegsmarine. So he could be a candidate. I could also mention that in our new product, World of Warships Legends, we have as well a new historical captains, and they could be later added to World of Warships as well, I presume, as already in World of Warship Legends we have Admiral Halsey and Yamato. So this is the good source of new captains, I believe, might be.
Yeah,
but
I really like
an assumption.
I really like the direction they're going in there. It's they're focusing very heavily on the captains, which is why they're starting with a strong lineup of historical captains from a variety of nations. You'll see some of them cycling through in the background right now. These are in-game portraits from World of Warship Legends. But I think this is one of the things, right? It is quite challenging to implement historical figures into the game. I think there's some legal considerations. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But I think it's safe to say there will be more coming in the future.
Well, yeah, we are. It is actually what we have to do to talk to the to study the legal side of it, like a lot. The different countries have different laws and regulations about the images we could use, and yeah, which is why we are very carefully with that in World of Warships already.
Yeah, I have to say that our team did a fantastic job with those portraits. I'm just looking at them and going like, oh, so nice. Cool. Next question, again from Fufafi. He was sneaky. He got 2 in. Guys, you know, when we see us posting these things on Reddit or on the forums, go post, because then you can have answers. So the question is, do you have any ideas for a historical female captain in World of Warships?
Well, this is the tough one, because if we would actually have a look on the history of World War I and World War II, we would soon find out that there were no, and this is the era of our game, there were no female captains on warships. There was like not a single navy which has the idea that they let women to command the warship, but in the same time, there were examples of women actually commanding the civilian vessels and commanding them during the Second World War, which is extraordinary. And the good examples for that is actually, and I don't know, might be surprisingly for some of you, is in the Soviet merchant fleet. So the first, as we know, the first captain certificated as the captain, the master foreign going, was Anna Shepetova, and she got her vessel in command in 1935. And then was Valentina Orlikova. She was the captain's mate on a motor ship, and after the war she had her own vessel to command and to master like the difference between the warship and the civilian vessel. And what is interesting that they both were involved in Lend-Lease. They were in that historical process, and Anna Shetina, she even got to master the Liberty ship, and this is one of the most important ships for the Lend-Lease, because they were built very fast and in very big numbers, which helped to deliver a lot of cargo valuable for the fighting countries, for fighting navies.
Yes. And we also dropped the link to the related publication to you, if you guys want to.
Yeah, if you're interested in Anna Shetina, I highly recommend you this material published in our portal.
Yes, hers is the artist rendering in the background is the lady in question. I do have Doc Snakecake pointing out that we already have quite a few female captains in game, but not so historical.
I mean, we can ask. So, Sergey, do you also do the research on our enemy commanders? he won't even answer this. So, we have a question from Henrik, actually, and it's more of a personal question. And he's asking, how did you get this job? Were you just very interested in the subject, or do you have some educational background for that?
I would say both of them. So I have a historical background, as even my mother were a historian, and in the same time, the father and the grandfather were in merchant fleet. So I was like encouraged by the family background to combine the history and the history of the Navy, and it was super fun. I like games and tabletop games, so like the best job ever.
Yeah, sounds like the dream job. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. It's from Crysantos, do you want to have the honor?
Oh yes, so it's from Wurkilatier. So I'm sure I slaughtered and butchered that name. I'm sorry, but I'm giving my best.
Yes. The question is, how do you research on ships with information mostly available in their native languages? For example, in Dutch and Polish ships, do you hire a translator? And how does it work when they're archived in a language that's not spoken by the research team at all?
Well, to start with, I have to mention that it's relatively easy to read the international terms for shipbuilding. It's like if you can read blueprints, plans of Russian language or in English, you would be as skilled in the German plans, Italian ones, and so on and so forth. And as the languages mentioned in the question, I would say the answer is simple. For a lot of us, Polish is not an issue because we here in St. Petersburg are of Slavic origin. As for Dutch Navy, we don't have that much Dutch ships actually. I would mention the only one is the actually in Panasian Tech 3, the TS7 Gadiamada, who were in Dutch Navy for some time as TIAC Hiddens. But if you think about this ship, it was actually and originally built as the Royal Navy ship, HMS Nonpareil, and which is why we actually bought this beautiful set of blueprints for that one in Royal Museums Greenwich. And at the same time, I would say that this year we actually visited some archives and museums in Holland. We were kindly invited there by Ministry of Defense. So we visited the museum in Den Helder and Military Institute. And yet, yes, we did not know almost no Dutch, but there was the representative of the Military Institute who kindly helped us in our research. I don't know if any of these materials will be used soon, but we have some good stuff to research and maybe in the next few years made something for Dutch Navy as well. So thank you for the beautiful opportunity. It was a cool experience, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the guys in the Dutch Ministry of Defense has started off like a little Twitter friendship with our Polish community manager and keeps tweeting us things, which is quite funny. I think today's tweet was a video about how the Dutch Navy decided the strategic placement of this year's Christmas tree at the naval base.
Nice.
I'll have to send you a link. It's quite funny. Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting to be able to visit all these places around the world. I have a question here that is not really as related, but I still want to ask it. The question is, has anyone thought about diving some of the known wrecks of warships that there's a lack of info on to get more information for the game?
Well, first of all, you have to know the very important fact that those battleships, I'm not that skilled in this question, but I know most of them are actually considered as the graveyards, like the mass graves, and they are protected by the international laws, by the laws of the countries in which territorial waters they are. So I would say, and it is actually the sad truth, that most people who dive there are just the hunters for the medal. So it has to be really important research project to get there. So it is costly and it is rare to get there. And yes, sometimes they get quite an answers. Like a couple of years ago, they find HMS Sydney, who was sunken. Like they sunk itself with the German vessel Cormoran, the auxiliary cruiser. It was like in the Tarantino films. The two guys got in a bar and they shot themselves till death. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we do have a related question to this. So are you personally involved in scuba diving, especially wreck diving, or did you ever work with divers regarding discovery of a ship?
Nope. Nope.
It's an easy no.
I would be a volunteer.
I would probably volunteer before you can volunteer. I'll be faster than that. I'm actually I actually have a license as a scuba diving instructor, not a wreck diver per se. I've done a bit of wreck diving here and there. I can tell you in response to your question that almost every conceivable like option to find more information on a ship is going to be easier and cheaper than going to actually dive on a wreck. It is incredibly complicated, dangerous, especially with wrecks this age, and it's like. As much as I would love to get Lord of Droid to sponsor like a little expedition somewhere in the Mediterranean, a couple of Italian ships, they're easily accessible. It's not too bad.
Let me put it this way.
I don't think it's going to happen.
For this to happen, you will have to buy way more ships.
Yes,
so that we can afford this.
Buy more premium ships, guys, so we can go through it.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind me telling this anecdote, I was in Tunisia the summer actually, for family holiday, and I went to dive on a Italian refrigerated transport ship that sunk, escaping from Tobruk, I think. It got completely wrecked. It got torpedoed by a submarine. It got bombed by planes. It eventually went down. It was really interesting. All of the shell casings and the gas mask, everything just littered across the ocean floor. It's good fun. Yes. Anyway, next question.
You mean the next question? Because the next questions are going to come from chat. Because we made it through the prepared questions, and now we're going to unleash chat on Sergey.
Sorry.
One thing I want to say, because I see some questions like, oh, are we going to add battle cruisers? These kind of questions, not the perfect place to ask today. In general, these kind of announcements, we would make them in a bigger fashion. I would say that we would let you know that, oh, by the way, battle cruisers are coming as their own class.
It's like a little side note during like 1 hour into a Q&A. No.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we have a lot of questions, and I will start with one that it's actually a very broad question from King Monarch, and he's asking, what was the first ship put into the game, and what is the history or importance in history or important? Well, I guess he would just want to say importance in history behind it. Do you remember what was the first ship you researched that popped up in the game?
That's the tough question, actually, because as I recall, it was like 5 till 10 ships from both sides, and I actually entered the team in the later stage, so I'm not aware of that. But I would say I'm interested by myself to dig in and find that one.
Cool. Yes.
So and probably I'll mention that in the next streams.
Cool. So you see, we have him on record, and he said he's going to come again. Perfect. Then the next question we have is from Immortal, and he is asking, what is the deciding factor when you choose what ship you're going to research?
We not even sometimes understand that we will research for that ship. We can find it surprisingly, as if we're talking about paper ship projects, and the factor is actually the decisions made in that joint council between game designers and historical consultants, my colleagues, and guys from RQA. So we have like our initial vision of the tech tree. So they gave me this list, and we dig in. Sometimes we find something fruitful that we could add to, and we do so. So this is how it works.
Thank you. And then we have a question that's a very interesting one. How is the research done when it comes to the planes for the carriers compared to actually researching the ships?
Yes, we do it as well. I mean, we collect plans for the planes are like they are covered in much more details than they're just basically more books, more interest on that. It could be seen even in the game industry. You can name like 24 titles of games about aircraft and count on fingers of one hand games, not simulators, but like casual games about warships. So, which is why just easier. Sometimes we had to adopt because not many countries had that much planes for carriers. So we have to adopt like the army projects. That research we do too. That's how it works. Yeah.
Cool, interesting. And then we have a question from Brandon on YouTube, and he's asking, where do designs such as Izumo or Friedrich der Große come from?
Well, it's like different navies, different countries. So they are like the mixture of what we found, what ideas, what materials we found in archives, and the evil will of our ship designers, shipbuilders.
Okay.
Like
cool.
dark forges.
The dark forges in St. Petersburg, exactly.
Yeah.
And then a very interesting question. Maybe you can shed some light on this. Do you know, did the Soviet government ever experiment or look at carriers in the 1930s or 1940s?
In 1940s, and yes, they did plenty of projects of various carriers, like from light to more heavy stuff. So not. I'm sure that it's enough for the tech tree, but we had those, yeah, as the Germans did. It was like important part of the navy to be designed in the way. So, and I would to mention that even in the Imperial Navy, even though in that time they had no aircraft carriers, they had seaplane tenders. The one called Arlitsa, and the day of our Navy aviation, it was the day when the 4 aircraft from Arlitsa actually shot down 2 German planes over the Baltic, and they haven't lost any aircraft from our side. So yeah, we had some cool projects really adopted during the World War I even.
Actually, a question from my side, because I was just rolling the Naval Legends video for Haida in the background, because I think that's one of the best ones we did. Are you at all involved in like the Naval Legends series production in the background research for that?
Yep. From certain moments, it was me who was like proposing the ships for which could be filmed for Naval Legends or like models for Project Scale 142, and I'm doing the negotiations between that, finding speakers, talking to museums. So yeah, this is the very important aspect of my job. Yes.
Cool. Then I have to say, from my side, excellent work. And
Thank
for
you.
all of those watching at home, if you have any interest at all, right, honestly, go to our YouTube channel, look for the Naval Legends playlist, and just go and do a binge watch. They easily compete with any like high budget, high quality documentary you'll find on TV.
Yeah, I will have to make you jealous when it comes to that, because we had an event in Berlin roughly like 3 weeks ago, and we were showing the Naval Legends Yamato video on a very, very big screen in a cinema. So I was able to
Oh,
just sit
really?
there, yes, and see the Yamato in its glory on cinema scale. So that was very amazing. Yeah, I love the Naval Legends videos, and it's also a good format and actually quite short. So you don't have to invest like an hour to watch it, guys. So most of the videos are something in between 10 to 20 minutes. So go check them out. Yeah, I also have a question that is more related not to ships but to ports. What is the most impressive naval port that you have researched? Did you do any research on naval ports yourself?
Nope. The research part is what my colleague Sergey do, a historical consultant, in a close relation with the guys in the art department, and I know that they are doing really tremendous job because I myself like those ports. It adds to historical, like the feeling where you are and that you are really, you see the scale of the warship and the port's objects, so it's cool.
So now you have to, but you still have to tell us what is your favorite port.
The city of St. Petersburg. I'm proud that it is in-game. Port of London.
Ah, cool. Okay.
Cool, yeah.
Actually, I have a good question.
Well, the other ones are not.
No. Sorry, guys. That's what I meant. No, I have a question I find very interesting. Let me just. God damn it! The chat is scrolling too fast. BobKid73 is asking, how tough is it to be critiqued about historical inaccuracies when you've spent so much time creating such beautiful representations in game?
From some moment you just got quite stubborn about that, so just tough skin.
We know the feeling. But I have a related question from Hoods, and he's asking, so it's probably difficult to answer, but maybe you can shed some light on it. He's asking, what ship in-game is, in your opinion, like the furthest away from the original plan, and why?
So it's like I have to critique my team.
Don't worry.
No. If you don't have to, but if you have a ship where you say, I mean, I don't know. For example, for balance reasons, we had to remove a certain aspect of the ship, or we had to do something so it's not 100% where you would like it to be, or I guess towards that direction.
Well, it's like maybe the aircraft carriers, because the mechanics has to be adopted to the gameplay. Some of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because guys, you have to keep in mind that when we build a game, the thing that is just as important as historical accuracy is balance and fun. So even though some ships like aircraft carriers very, very strong, and there's a reason why they were so strong towards the end of the war, but still the game has to have a certain level of balance that it's fun to play. So I guess that's part of it.
So
it's like how sorry for
no, go ahead.
interrupting you. It's like we sometimes asked if we have to, why we're doing some historical refits, like to scaling a bit some of the ships that existed with the historical stuff. And the good example is actually the German battleships. I wouldn't say we did a historical refit to them. I rather point out that this was like the technical alternative. What's actually the difference between that? We know that most of the Hosea flotta was actually scuttled in Scapa Flow in 1919, and the next year is actually the anniversary of that event. So since in our game that battleships have to compete with the other navies warships of the era of 1930s and 1940s, they had to be protected from aircraft. enemy aircraft. That's what they actually lacked, and we had to put this anti-aircraft guns in place. And it wasn't like the historical refit, but we just followed the what was actually invented in that time and adopted by the Navy for was used for the more modern ships. And you will see, if you will, for example, just have a look on the Deutschland class pocket battleships, that some decisions were used adopted for the refits we did for the older ships. Like we understand that the Germans initially would actually use these decisions they came up with on new ships, and because it's just merely practical, and adopt them in the older ships for modernizations.
Yeah. I want to ask a silly question, because I saw a little discussion about it in chat, and it's one of those discussions that always pops up again, especially because we provoked them on Facebook by asking, like, oh, who would have won in this? So which ship do you think, if Yamato had met Iowa in battle, who would have won, and why do you think? Why? Let's get an expert weighing in on this discussion.
I just, as a historian, I would say it would be the Iowa, just because, I mean, the battleships just don't operate by itself. They are escorted by the ships, and in the situation with the Iowas, they would be escorted by a hell of a lot of auxiliary aircraft carriers, destroyers, and it would be on their favor for sure.
It's okay, Sergey. You can say the Bismarck would win. It's fine.
Yeah, this is usually the goals. Who would win, Yamato or Iowa? No, Bismarck. It's not even that. We're gonna win anyway.
Yeah, I mean, people love to think about these kind of scenarios where ships did not ever get into that situation. We would love to see that epic fight as in World of Warships, and then who would actually win? What design is actually the better one?
Yeah, but Chad is pointing out that it has to be like, for the purpose of this discussion, it has to be like a discussion about a one-on-one fight, because we know who won in history because the Japanese lost. But who in a one-on-one? Go, Sergey. Who pick a side? Half of Chad's going to hate you for this, but you can decide which half.
Yeah, and the other half was going to love you for it. So,
Советский Союз battleship.
Okay. So we do have
the alternative to Bismarck answer.
So,
go with Soviet Navy.
Go with Soviet Navy. Okay. So when it comes to the researching ships, I saw this question actually asked by several players, and we kind of had it in the prepared questions. Mm-hmm. The really odd ships that you found while researching. Do you have any personal gems?
Well, I mentioned Project X. Actually, the Japanese had the project of submarines with the aircraft. It was like just a few of them to hit the Panama Channel and prevent those busters from America to actually crossing the Panama Channel and reinforcing their navy in Pacific. So this was actually the interesting project, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I have a question exactly related to this for the submarine aircraft carriers. So how far did nations actually go with this idea?
Sorry.
So how far were they actually in turning that into reality? This plan of like a submarine aircraft carrier. Did they ever start building the ships?
It existed, I think.
Yeah.
No, I'm just asking the question from chat. So.
Okay.
So it actually existed, right?
It's okay.
Well, yep.
Okay, so is there anything more you can say about it? What was it? Is it the I-40? No, it's not the I-401, is it? Is that
is it the IU-400? I think so.
Okay, help us. What is it called?
Actually forgot the index of the project. Yeah.
Chat says it's called I-400. Chat is always right.
Yeah.
So almost right.
It
Almost
says
right.
it carried 3 planes. Isolate is saying this. Well, it's probably not true then.
So do you think they would have been actually able to pull it off?
Well, I mean, a lot just would rely on skill and the luck, just the mere luck if they would do that. I would say it is possible. I mean, if you look how Germans conquered the just fought with the Dutch forts in the beginning of the Second World War, there were a lot of luck there, and the skill. They just developed the smart way of dealing with that.
Nice.
By the way, I'm embarrassed I was right about the Weeb submarine. God damn it. Sergey, have you shown any interest? This is a weird question, but this is the question. And the question is, has Sergey shown any interest in the Churchill supercruisers?
Showing any interest.
Let me just clarify this, right? Chat. If Sergey says, yes, he's shown interest in something, yes, he's researched in something, that only means that he's researched it because it is his job to research as many ships as possible. This does not mean it will be implemented in the game at all or anytime soon. Just get this out as a disclaimer. Research is done proactively, right? Okay, go, Sergey.
I just need to thank you for this
You're welcome.
very clear answer. Yeah.
Okay, but have you? I mean, like... No, you can say, because I told them that if you have, it doesn't mean anything. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a clear maybe. There's also a question that I can answer from Leandrovas Conchelos. I'll just slaughter your name. I'm sorry. I'm not Brazilian. Sorry. I'm as far from a Brazilian as can be because I'm German. So definitely not Brazilian. There's also a question about, are they going to be German CVs? So we do have one German CV. It's the Graf Zeppelin. It's already in game. If there will be any additional German CVs in the future, maybe not. We don't know yet. First of all, we have to do the CV rework, and then we'll see about adding new CVs. So for now, I wouldn't expect it in the, let's say, midterm future, maybe in the long-term future. But as I said before, we would love to add as many ships as possible, but we also have to, we have to have priorities what we want to add first, because there's only a limited amount of ships we can produce for the game per year. So please keep that in mind.
Yeah, I have a question here from our new console community, our World of Warships Legends community manager, Tekane, who happens to be in St. Petersburg right now. So if this question annoys you, feel free to go hunt him down, because he's probably mooching off the Wi-Fi in the office and slap him around the head. His question is, can I ask you if you have done any research into Project Habakkuk for possible PvE missions? And maybe you could tell chat what Project Habakkuk is if they don't know.
Well, it is the British project made out of ice and chemicals. I'm really bad in chemistry, which is why I can't really say how it should be built with. But the idea was to just utilize the hell lot of ice and other materials to make the very big aircraft carrier, and I don't know what they probably assumed it would be cheaper than those built out of metal. So we had our own ways how to adopt it in the game, and I'm not sure they were to adopt in the tech trees. But we thought about that one, because it's just fun.
I honestly, of all the crazy things from World War II I've ever read about, this for me, this takes the crown of just utter ridiculousness. Because, I mean, let's look at the Titanic, right? Titanic was a big ship, got sunk by an iceberg. Wow, icebergs must be OP. Let's build one and put planes on it.
Well, if you can beat it, steal it. You know, the one ship class or the way to build a ship that really surprised me, and I in the beginning I thought it was just like a fake article, was actually concrete ships. When for the first time I saw that they were actual ships made of concrete, because like, why would you do this? But apparently it was a thing. So yeah, it's crazy sometimes what people like, what kind of designs they came up with and what ships they built.
Go visit Viborg. It is near actually St. Petersburg. There is like the hull of this concrete ship there. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Oh,
I'll take you up
okay.
on the offer.
Yeah, we'll have to convince Mr. Lord of Droid to send us there for research purposes. Clearly, I have a question that I simply have to ask from the Kroven. So it's more of a funny question. So, what were your thoughts when you researched the Kitakami and how much fun it would bring to the game?
Well, if you have seen the Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, you could just imagine our faces.
That's a good answer.
That's a
the
very good answer.
Next one is very specific, right? Very, very specific. So on HMS Hood, is the inadequate deck armor that was due to be replaced during the war represented in-game, or is the armor scheme in-game the planned refit armor scheme that didn't happen?
Well, that's too specific question.
That's one that...
I'm dealing with plans, but not as like any certain plans of it. So I have to dig in.
Okay, so there would be something for the next stream.
Yeah, but also, if you have questions that go really, really in depth, we have the answers, but we need to know in advance so we can ask the right people.
Yes. Then I have a similar question. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. We have a question about: was there a particular reason why the Iron Duke was given a single funnel over her historical 2 funnels, even though there's no speed increase or something? Do you know?
Well, yeah. Once again, it should be merely the decision made and adopted by the game designers and our shipbuilders. So yeah.
Okay.
Next question was one from quite early in the stream, actually, which was a question about a ship not yet in game, and I don't know his name, sorry, but he would like to know if you're familiar with the USS Washington and what your thoughts are about her exploits during the war.
You mean the battleship Washington?
I would imagine so.
Well, I'm familiar with that ship. It, as I recall, even visited Murmansk port. In my first year in wargaming, I read quite a good recollections of the sailors from Washington. It was not the recollections from the single man, but the collected from a group of sailors and officers. So yeah.
Okay. Is there anything you can say? That's the next question. If you can talk a little bit about Iwaki or the Tenryu Kai project.
Well, not so much.
Okay, guys, in advance, questions in advance.
Yes. Actually, a more broader question. So, how long does it take, or how long did, in general, capital ships usually take to build?
That's the good question. I recall we even did the countdown, like the video of HMS Hood being built. So it take us half a year actually to build that ships.
And do you know in real life, basically in reality, how long it took to build a ship?
Well,
of that size.
It depended from navy to navy. Some navies were building them longer, some faster. So about a year, I would say, the standard. I mean, the issue was that they can be. They were launched, then they were commissioned. They would have to be tested, and sometimes the war could prevent this and delay this process.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question here from Jijika about do we have plans to add like what navies do you plan to add for the pan-European tech tree? So guys, this is a question we cannot answer. So what I said before is as soon as we have information about this and we can tell you, we will share it. But right now we can't tell you.
Well, we can say two of them because we've announced two of them.
Polish Navy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, three of them actually.
And
Dutch Navy
and
Austria-Hungary.
yeah, but you will still have to wait. But I mean, of course, the European navies, they're not unlimited, so you know what kind of options we have, but we'll have to see. So just wait for more info. As soon as we're there, we'll let you know what exactly will be moved in there. So I do have a question. It's actually quite interesting. So the plans that you need to actually build the ships. Do you still have to deal with any form of secrecy around them to get your hands on certain blueprints? Or is that really not a problem anymore at all?
It's actually not a problem. I mean, I already mentioned the problem with the archives in the St. Petersburg suburb, Gatchina. So if you don't have this access to the secrecy, you won't just reach it. So it's just either you have it or not. So we just simply go sneaky and find the necessary plans in other archives because it was huge shipbuilding industry, and the pieces of information there and there, we just collected them and adopted for our use. And in most countries, they are just available for common use. I know, and I already mentioned it a few times. The French Navy, even the French archives of the Defense Ministry, they even utilized like the small sets of plans which could be used by the scale modelers, like the easy ones. So you even don't need to waste your time researching. You could just talk to archive, choose the warship, the set of plans for the warship you wish to, buy it, and use it like very, very fast, which is cool actually.
A really good question here. Have you used any 3D scanning techniques of actual like existing museum ships for ships in game?
We don't. We used old good cameras to take photos of museum ships, and we do it like almost in all situations when we know that the warship survived. It's just because of these objects are too big. As far as I know, I'm not that advanced on the technology. I know that's a good question, actually. I know that our colleagues from World of Tanks really adopted this technology and do scanning in Bovington, I believe in Kubinka. But for us, it's just easier. Like it's not much ships remained. They are too big. It's just easier to take photos and use plans and those materials, photos, historical ones.
Mm-hmm. I have a somewhat related question to that from Kiowa. Do you participate in naval museum events organizations, and do you plan to do something like this in Bulgaria?
Well, as far as I know, no plans for Bulgaria. But yes, I helped to organize some events in museums or like related to Navy military. For example, we did an event. We were present during the main Navy parade here in Kronstadt, which is near the St. Petersburg. This summer, it was important to us because apparently this is the second Navy parade, like the main one. And there were really a lot of our players and the audience in which we are interested in. So we even made the contest for existing players, and the winner was watching the parade, I'm jealous, really jealous, because I had to be in the other place. He was watching the parade from the newly adopted museum ship destroyer, type 956. So the destroyers of this class are actually really serve in the Navy, in Russian Navy and Chinese Navy right now. And this one was made in a museum in Kronstadt, and he was watching along with his girlfriends the parade from the open breach.
Oh, nice. That's
Signal man. Yeah,
I'm kind of jealous too. I see in chat. We have two questions about whether we're going to get the USS Pennsylvania, or what about the Canadian Navy. Is there going to be more of that? So, guys, these are the kind of questions we cannot answer. You can be sure that we're trying to add as many of the important historical ships that were out there to the game, and also a variety of nations. But we have to prioritize, and if we have more information, we will share it. I think I should just make a little info about this. So there's an interesting question, because I have no idea what he's talking about. So Chaos Death is asking, did you do some research about the German O class?
Well, yes, we did, but I mean,
can you talk about it, because I don't know what he's referring to, and maybe Chet would like to know as well.
Well, it's just one of the projects proposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, we help. When I say we, it's a very liberal we, because I don't. But our customer support specialist Martin helps a lot with the interface with the German National Archives. And without giving anything away, I can tell you there's, like, for most of the navies, especially for the German ones, a load of stuff that's not in the game yet. And just wait and see. You know, we need time to make all of this.
Yes.
Be patient.
Exactly. Also, we get some questions about, for example, night battles and first person while in port. So these are kind of things that we cannot answer today. I'm sure we're going to do more Q&A sessions with other departments of our beautiful St. Petersburg office. So
Yes.
These are kind of questions we can answer then. So right now, try to stick to historical questions, because these questions Sergey can't answer. So,
Yeah, and if
guys,
you have
stay on
any
topic.
if you have any requests about a specific department you would like to get some insight into, right? We've done a couple of Q&As, of course, with Evan and with Sub Octavian and the global player interaction team. We've had Mimi Missile, one of our map designers, along. Sergey's been here twice now. So, like, if there's like a specific area that you guys are really interested in, we can totally see if we can, drag someone and chain them to that desk Sergey's sitting in. And once they're there, they don't have a choice but to answer whatever question we throw at them.
Exactly. I have a cool question here from Heldentod. He's asking, so how specific have the blueprints to be considered? Or in other words, do you research if the ships were actually possible to build?
Could you rephrase that one?
I guess he means do you look into, like, whether it was physically possible to build the ships like this, whether they were really able to, like, be put on sea and survive that?
Well, yes, we do that because basically we don't want to show the stuff which won't work, and I know that there was no like ship that couldn't really sail, but some mistakes in paper ship calculations we actually found in U.S. Navy. So, and just a minor one, but still in the calculations, because they were very, very primarily data for the paper ships. That
Okay.
things I know, yeah.
I have a question here from Talentane Wow. He's saying he heard that we had real problems with attaining plans for UK ships. Is this true? Can you talk a little
Which
bit about
plans?
it? United Kingdom ships, British ships.
I just
British.
misheard you, sorry.
British.
I'll say it again. Did we have any problems with obtaining like blueprints or doing
obtaining,
research?
Okay. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. In fact, not at all. So we buy plans in Royal Museums Greenwich. It is probably one of the largest hub for Royal Navy plans. And they are really nice to us. I mean, the guy in the plans and records section, he's like the total fan of World War II, World War I Navy history. So it's just inspiring to talk to them. So not a problem. Photos we buy in Imperial War Museums. So it's like not a problem. Yeah.
What's his win rate?
Win rate? I think he's not playing.
Then you have to give an invite code. Clearly, interesting question. Interesting question from Sigurd Olofsson. He's asking, did you do any research on, for example, crew training or activities? So anything that is not related to the ship itself, but more about the crew itself?
The crew training. Well, I know that there were several ideas on the early stages of game development how to actually implement what will implement captains or like the key persons on the ship. So we did a lot of research about that, really.
You know, one thing that really surprises me is that
more just to complete my answer, more about not the crew training, because it is not very let's say covered with the historical references, because you have like for a lot of ships you have the data how they were tested, the ship itself, but not the crew. It could be found in some recollections, but just a piece of information. We did more research about the ship organization and what their duties were and how they actually operated in different navies with solving different problems on the ship.
Yeah, this is really going to get complicated because we are slowly running out of time. I see loads of like really good and interesting questions in chat, and we're probably going to have to like leave a lot of those unanswered. So we'll have to come back and do this again. But I'm really surprised that we have almost 1,800 people watching on Twitch, a couple of hundred people on YouTube, a couple of people on Facebook, and nobody's asked about what's on your desk.
Yes.
Chat, what's up? Like, we've been waiting.
Are you not paying attention? So Sergey, because we can see there's not just a cup and a book on your ship, but there's also a ship. Actually, two ships on your ship.
But the first, I because the ship I know about. But what's up with the cup?
Yeah. What's the cup?
The cup?
Yeah.
Well, I born in Tallinn, Estonia, so it's just like the cup from the church, the medieval one, with the dance macabre, the dance with the dead. So yeah.
Okay, so it's mostly just a cup. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. So Mr. McCavity is saying what's in the box, but it's not actually. And Nagahide is saying nobody cares. Well, you don't care yet. Anyway, Sergey, can you tell us about what's on your desk?
Yes,
please.
Yep. So there are a lot of questions related to game design today, and we are not. I mean, I'm not a game designer, and my colleagues too. But we work closely with the game design guys, and we can say we are neighbors. And as the neighbors, we do fun on each other, and we found our own way how to show what we think game designers do, how we see they're doing tests for game mechanics. So we even made a small video. I would say it's the best moment to show it. Okay. And then I'll
Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. You will love this. I know it.
I'll expect clips, memes, and things on Reddit. We'll see. Let's roll the video. So I think the first thing that's readily apparent is that you enjoyed making that video a lot.
I love this. I love this so much. We actually can we show it in full screen again at the end of the stream? At the end of the stream, we'll do it at the end of the stream, guys.
Yes.
But this is just so amazing, guys. I had to laugh so much when I saw this in the first time. First of all, you can see how much fun Sergey had shooting this video, and on the other hand, I think all of you guys would like to have that stuff as well. And no, this was not a hidden submarine announcement, guys. No. So Sergey, where did you get this?
It's actually the idea of this toy kit. It's just the submarine which can fire the torpedo and the battleship. So the battleship is could be blown up as you've seen it probably, and the idea was given to the audience in 1935 in actually the article in the it could be the not the original one, just the copy of it in the Popular Mechanics magazine, so 1945. And I probably mentioned my father is merchant marine and the former one, and the scale modeler. So he made this toy kit for himself. I just stole it for a moment, and it is actually the pretty good example of how the submarine or destroyer could easily destroy and blow to the pieces the battleship or cruiser with a torpedo.
So yes, this is an actual historical toy, guys.
Yes. We will watch it again at the end of the stream. But now, Sergey, my question: Can we see it live?
I need to check the mousetrap. It is.
Can you pick it up and like show us the inside, like lift?
Yeah, there is the mousetrap there. So I had to load it up.
And no, guys, there's not a new class coming to the game, the Mousetrap Battleship. No.
That direction.
We didn't tell Sergey. We would have asked him, but to be honest, he should have known.
I have to mention I'm not that skilled destroyer or submarine captain, so I have to wait. In fact, you have to become first of all the torpedo.
So this is the torpedo loader training course, right?
Yeah. Let me.
So while you're building it, I saw. We're ready. Cool.
No.
Okay. So
the tech is too.
it's high tech. It's high tech. Take your time. So Nathan had a question about submarines in general. So guys, we tested submarines in the Halloween mode, and there was submarines versus surface ships. So now we're taking a look at how much you liked it, the feedback, the stats, all of these things, and then we'll see whether we can implement them into the game or not. So for now, there's nothing new we can share, but we'll look into it. And as soon as we have more info, we're going to share it with you. So don't worry about it. Yeah, become the torpedo, exactly. So if we can't shoot it live, we'll just show the video again. Okay.
Chat, believe.
I definitely need to get one of these.
That's fantastic. So if your dad needs like a little bit of a side income, I think most of chat would buy one right away.
Yes. I love this. I love this so much.
No, that is genuinely fantastic. Please give your dad a warm shout out from all of us.
Yes.
Sure, I'll do. And I believe that in 1935 it was like the best way to have to recruit a few sailors for the Navy.
Yeah, like I mean that is I think legitimately a fantastic idea, especially that it's like so old and such a massive history. But chat, I really have bad news. It is 5 minutes to 8, and we've been here for a while.
Yes.
and we need to go get food, and you have to realize it's 5 minutes to 8 here. Sergey is in St. Petersburg.
That means he's 5 minutes to 10 now.
Yes, so it's very late. It's very cold. It's been dark for probably the best part of like 8 hours there. So we really can't like, you know, like somebody has to now come and unlock the you know, like the little handcuffs that we use to make sure he doesn't run away during the stream. But then he can go home and have a rest.
So, chat, what I want you to do is show us some love for Sergey in chat, that you enjoyed this. I mean, judging by the numbers, you did. But yeah, let us know whether you liked this stream, and send a little heart to Sergey for investing the time. And, you know, Christmas is always a very busy time in December, so it's very nice that he took the time to answer all of your questions, or as many questions as we could get in. And we'll try to do this in the future again with more questions.
Yes, so like guys, really, the thing is, Sergey has a lot of information, and he has access to a load of other information. So if you want us to do another historical stream with Sergey, or maybe, you know, you can bring someone from your team along as well. We can, you know, like expand and show the love to some more people, chain more people to the desk. Then let us know, and please, like when we go and ask for the questions, ask them, because the really complicated questions, you know, we need to know in advance to be able to get answers. And, you know, like I was a really good question about, you know, like, Sergey, do you know of any Italian ship that could hypothetically place at tier 10? But I think Sergey needs to get clearance before talking about that. You know, like, so these things we need to know in advance. So, yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. A huge shout out and thank you to Sergey for taking, you know, like the time out of his evening and from his busy job to hang out here with us and talk to us about warships, which is, you know, the reason we're all here. We really like warships. Chat is loving you a lot. I see lots of heart emotes. You rewatch the VOD afterwards, Sergey. They're very, very appreciative. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well,
shout outs?
Yeah, shout outs.
Okay, so shout out, right, to this weekend. We are going to be broadcasting live from here. So on Saturday and Sunday, we are going to be working all day till night. And we're going to be broadcasting the Shipstorm tournament. It's a casual 3v3 tournament. I believe if you're really quick and you want to sign up, you can still do it. There's some cool prizes up for grabs. Broadcasting it live will be myself, Mr. Crysantos, Flumbus and Isolate, who've flown in here. Unfortunately, Jingles...
There were issues.
Wait for Mingles with Jingles on Monday. I'm sure it'll be funnier if Jingles tells us the story of how he missed the plane. But yes, so it's going to be a great weekend. Be sure to follow us here and tune in. Is there anything else you want to say before we go, Sergey?
Well, thank you guys for bringing me here. And if you have, guys, community, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask my colleagues and me. We'll be here to help you.
Perfect. Then a few things, because I see questions in chat about the Twitch drops. So guys, it's very easy how this works. First of all, you need to link your Twitch account, your Wargame account to the Twitch account that you have. You can do this by simply going to the World of Warships homepage. You click on your nickname once you logged in. You click on account management, and then on that nice little Twitch icon, you click on it and you connect your account. And after you did that, all you have to do is be on Twitch and watch World of Warships content. It's not like we can hand this out to you. This is basically running in the background of the system. So the more you watch, the higher the chance that at some point there's going to be a container for you. So go check out our contributors, all of the other streamers that are showing some World of Warships here on Twitch, and profit. And yeah, besides that, next week. So when is the next stream after the weekend? So we have the two big weekend streams for the Shipstorm tournament. We're also going to be probably showing some interesting stuff before that on the Saturday stream.
Yes.
And because you know what's happening on this weekend? It's Wargaming Fest on the 15th. So we might be showing some cool stuff from there. So make sure to stay tuned for our stream.
We will be showing some
We will be showing stuff. So
There'll
just
be
tune in.
announcements.
Yes, now you know. And then we do have a very big stream planned to basically celebrate the end of the year of 2018, because our last stream is going to take place next Friday on the 21st of December. It's going to happen from 1600 UTC to 2000 UTC. So make sure to stick around for that, because, you know, it will be a glorious stream. And with that, I think I'll just shut up and play the video that you want to see. And have a very nice week. We'll see us in 2 days on the stream. So make sure to tune in. And thank you for watching.
Yes. Thank you, Sergey. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, guys.
Goodbye, everyone, and we will see you here on Saturday. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.